Hi, and welcome to Finding Your Way Through Therapy. I am your host, Steve Bisson. I'm an author and mental health counselor. Are you curious about therapy? Do you feel there is a lot of mystery about therapy? Do you wonder what your therapist is doing and why? The goal of this podcast is to make therapy and psychology accessible to all by using real language and straight-to-the-point discussions. This podcast wants to remind you to take care of your mental health, just like you would your physical health. Therapy should not be intimidating. It should be a great way to better health. I will demystify what happens in counseling, discuss topics related to mental health, and discussions you can have with your therapist. I also want to introduce psychology in everyday life, as I feel most of our lives are enmeshed in psychology. I want to introduce the subtle and not so subtle ways psychology plays a factor in our lives. It will be my own mix of thoughts as well as special guests. So join me on this discovery of therapy and psychology. Hi, and welcome to episode 24. Episode 24 is kind of a review of the whole season, and I like to do this for several reasons. Number one, it kind of reminds me of what we talked about in the season in general, and kind of like the whole of all those subjects, and sometimes they're intertwined, sometimes they're not. This particular season appeared to have a lot of trauma conversations, so I definitely want to put that together, and that's part of why I want to do it. Number two, I think it's helpful for someone who may not be familiar with my podcast and Finding Your Way Through Therapy, and this gives them a great reason to be curious about it, and they can go back to the actual episode that might be interesting based on this. And more importantly, I think it's sometimes very important for all of us to kind of remember what we talked about. I know that I listen to a lot of podcasts, and sometimes I kind of remember listening to, we'll say Jane Doe or John Doe, it doesn't matter who. And I'm like, oh, that was a good episode. Which episode was that? And there's no kind of like, I don't remember that. So I want to create something unique that kind of can redirect you to that. It's very short and to the point, but nonetheless kind of discuss a little bit of what we had in every episode, and hopefully that's beneficial to you. So let's go ahead and start with the first episode of the season. We talked about the 7 dirty words: if, but, try, could, should, would, probably. Those are my 7 dirty words in my office. That's probably one of my favorite things to do. It's a lot of CBT. It's a lot of conversations in regards to that. But more importantly, kind of tells you about conditionals. Then we had returning guest, Sergeant J. Ball, and we talked again about the effect of mental health on first responders and what's going on in the field and how it affects anyone from the police officer to their family. And never, ever forget about the dispatchers and the hard work that they do, as well as co-responses with mental health and stuff like that. The following episode was people pleasing and how this can be so detrimental to us. It kind of is a precursor to maybe a response to trauma. And we're going to talk about trauma and so many other episodes this season, so you can go back to those, but people pleasing is kind of a precursor to that. Really thinking about my last interview with Blythe Landry, which we talked about how people pleasing is a trauma response, could be the fawn response in the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. Episode 18 was Maureen, and I got to tell you, that was such a powerful conversation. Really enjoyed a conversation with her and what she had to say in regards to her son, Reiki, and how to really get all that stuff. Talk about the, as I call it, we talked about woo-woo stuff. And I think that was beneficial for so many reasons. And I hope that you enjoy that one too. I talked about music right before that and how music is therapy. And I think that music is so international and can help us therapeutically on so many different levels. Episode 19, and I'm trying to remember the order. Obviously, I'm going by heart here. The Money Coach, and love talking to Sarah and how we can manage our mental health by managing our money and vice versa. So that way we feel more fulfilled. We have the right people around us. We also are feeling like we're doing the right thing with our money. And I thought that was a great conversation. The following episode was on trauma and PTSD and how they're not the same. And this gets tossed around about trauma, and I'm never going to judge someone what a trauma is for one or the other, but it doesn't necessarily become PTSD, and that's a little bit of what I talked about. My conversation with Bill and Cara was probably the most entertaining thing for so many reasons, and one day, if you want a story about how that went, send me an email. I have a great story about how that went. It's probably the most intensive show I've ever done. It was the first time I did face-to-face. There's 3 of us in the same room. There was so many things that occurred on that one. I could do a whole show on that, but talking about crisis work, how it affects clients, how it affects us, what we got from it, what we would change, and stuff like that. So it's so important to listen to that one. Bereavement is a great conversation to have right around the holidays. I share a little bit of my personal story in that in regards to how much I hate Decembers. And I encourage you to listen to that if you are going through a bereavement, grief, especially during the holidays, as we are starting that right now. And my final episode with Blythe was an amazing conversation about her book, Trauma Intelligence, and it was so amazing. I recommend the book highly. I want you guys to go get it. Finally finished it. She was right. The chapter was amazing, but I hope that you get a chance. It's a great Christmas gift. I make no money off of this, by the way. I'm just sharing that because I truly believe it was an amazing book and can be helpful for everyone. So I hope this helps to look back at those episodes. If you have any comments, questions, or anything I missed, let me know. The next episode will be the most popular episode. Because I'm recording this a little bit in advance, I won't know which one it is, but I will definitely set it up. So I hope that you keep on listening to your favorite episodes, and that way that one wins and gets in. And I hope you join me then. A reminder again that this is a podcast. This is not meant to be professional advice. Please seek a professional if you're struggling with any mental health issues. And if you want to like, subscribe, and review my podcast, it is always, always encouraged, and I hope you do so. So I will see you on the next episode. 'Tis the season, and I'm feeling very generous. So let's go with a contest. Here's the contest. You will be writing me an email to my email address. It's my full name, Steve Bisson, LMHC@gmail.com. I'll put it in the show notes, and write contest in the subject line and why you like the podcast. What are the prizes? Well, let's start with the most important prize, obviously, which is my book. So Finding Your Way Through Therapy. So one person will win my book, Finding Your Way Through Therapy. Another prize will be Blythe Landry's book, Trauma Intelligence, and that will be another person will win that. And the grand prize will be someone who wins both books. So remember to email me with the word contest and write down what you've enjoyed from my podcast. And I will also add you to my mailing list. So please do so before December 31st. That's when I will close it down. And you can go in and participate in the contest once a month. So you can do one in November, one in December, and we'll announce it in January. So looking forward to hearing from you, and good luck.